You're listening to KLPW AM All Talk 1220. My name is Sean McConnell. Bruce Campbell took off for the day. He's done. He's tapping out. We're filling in for James Strong, who is in the Orient this week. He's on his Asian invasion tour, which is all right because I am not by myself. I am being joined by really a local celebrity, the assistant police chief of New Haven, author of 6 books, and spook stalker, Dan Terry. How are you doing, sir?
Just fine. Thanks for inviting me in.
No problem. No problem. I definitely was looking forward to this this interview, and I was I'm very excited about it. So, first I want to talk to police officer Dan Terry, and then ghost hunter Dan Terry.
Well, we're both here.
All right, excellent. Now, the last time you were in here, you were promoting the book "Nothing Ever Happens in New Haven," and I believe you were on the morning show with Diane Jones.
Yes.
And after the book came out, you brought it in, much like you did your most recent book. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I took home Nothing Ever Happens in New Haven and read it, and I was just blown away. I really liked it. It gave me a little bit of insight of what was going on in the local area, especially in New Haven.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is that the only book that you wrote that didn't have to do with ghosts?
So far, yes.
So far. Do you have any other plans?
The next one coming out is a Civil War novel.
Okay.
Which, I don't know if you're aware of the local history, but back during the Civil War, some Union soldiers were taken out, shot, and left for hogs to eat.
Okay.
And in revenge, the U.S. government took out 6 prisoners of war and shot them just out of spite, out of revenge. And I'm working on that as a book.
Okay, excellent. That's an interesting book, really. Okay, well, let's get back to Nothing Ever Happens in New Haven. I, much like the gas station attendant that I believe inspired the title of the book, would assume that, nothing ever happens in New Haven.
A lot of people do.
And I guess I was wrong because throughout the book, they're not all serious crimes. A funny one was the lady calling the police about calling to report that somebody had mowed her lawn.
Yes.
Report that. So I did like the funny stories, but as the book goes on, the kind of you say So for me, the more exciting story is for the very end. So
sure.
I enjoyed the anticipation of the build-up for that. But there was some serious crimes in the book too. Some police shootouts. Can you tell me a little bit about what that's like being a police officer? Obviously in the book you didn't reveal anybody's names, but that's kind of a situation that only a police officer would experience. So I think that's why I enjoy the book so much, is because you lived it firsthand.
Right.
So,
right.
So that's it was really interesting to read that. And one thing that I did find really interesting is the morning after I read the book, and this is something that I've wanted to ask you a long time before this. The morning after I read the book, I was driving to it was a Saturday morning, and I get up very early on Saturday mornings every once in a while to do the news. And I was driving down Highway A, and I noticed a police trooper sitting at the Krakow store. It wasn't in New Haven; it was Franklin County. And the night before, when I read the book, it never crossed my head that when you flash lights,
right,
that there's probably a reason that the cop could possibly be there and not catching
not
speeders.
just speeding, right?
So that was something I found really interesting. I'll let you do it. Why don't you give your take on that?
Well, like I said in the book, one problem is we might have someone who's abducted a child. We know they're heading this way, and in your friendliness to warn them there's an officer there, you might be warning him to turn.
Right.
Or we might have a drunk driver coming down the road, and sure, now he's turned off on Highway C, and I didn't get him, but he killed someone out there. Who's to blame?
Right. Exactly. Now, I have to admit I am a light flasher, but I after that time that was the first time it ran through my head. So now if I were to ever flash again, I won't say whether I will or not, but now that is without a doubt kind of run through my head that they could possibly be looking for something.
Yes.
So especially in that situation, it was very strange that he would be out at 5 o'clock in the morning looking for a speeders going past
Sure.
the Krakow store. So, but I do in defense of myself, flashing lights. if it wasn't for there being so many speed traps, then because I lived across the street when I lived in Cleveland. I lived across the street from this particular speed trap that almost every day there was a cop sitting there, and it was right in front of my apartment, so I could watch. And he would just they would pull him over. They would go in shifts, So I think that is where that comes from, is that people think they're helping people out, but
yeah.
But from your, again, that never crossed my mind that, you know, they're there for other reasons too.
Sure.
So
There's not many departments that still have quotas on tickets. That's pretty rare.
really, okay.
If we're writing tickets, it's because there's a problem.
Okay. All right. Well, again, that was one of the things that I definitely wanted to address because, you know, again, like, you know, I had done that for a long time. So, all right. Well, I'm done with the police officer talk. Let's move on to the ghost talk. So, well, let's talk a little bit about this most recent book. It's called Too Ornery to Die. You brought it in. You know, very, very nice book here. And why don't you tell us a little bit about how this book is different than your other ghost hunting books?
This one has a central theme. Now, my other ones kind of did. One was all about Missouri, one was all about Herman, and one was about towns along rivers.
Okay.
This one here is all people who were rough around the edges. Included in that, there's one marshal. His name was Masterson, worked in Dodge City, was killed there in the line of duty. His spirit's still there. And the rest are mostly criminals. I've got 2 female serial killers whose spirits are still roaming. One was a local.
Okay.
And then there's pirates, gangsters, all kinds, cowboys, outlaws, just people who are just too ornery to let death finish them off.
And that's the tale of the book. So
Yes.
yeah, again, I haven't read it yet, so I can't give you my favorite areas of it like I did with Nothing Ever Happens in New Haven. But with how good how much I enjoyed Nothing Ever Happens in New Haven, I will definitely be reading this book.
Oh, thank you.
So again, if you want to join in the conversation with myself, Sean McConnell, and police officer with the New Haven Police Department, Dan Terry, phone number here is 636-584-8255 or toll free at 1-866-570-1220. You mentioned some hot spots. Where are some supernatural hot spots in Franklin County?
Well, there's 2 that are the biggest of all, and that would be the John Bush Brewery in Washington and the Enoch's Knob Bridge, which is still standing.
Okay.
I thought sure it would be torn down by now.
Yeah, I saw that. I think, you know, I've been kind of paying attention to the road work that's going on. I think it was slated in September to be taken out, so I had assumed that it was already gone. But yeah, we were talking a little off the air that apparently it's still there. So.
Yep, she's still there as of a week ago when I was there last.
Okay.
And you can't get to her by car; you got to walk to it. But the ghosts are still active, and according to them, in an interview I did with the ghosts, they said they're still going to stay there even after the bridge is gone.
Really? Okay, so they're replacing the bridge. I take it they're not taking it out. So.
They're building a new one about 50 yards upstream.
Okay.
So it will still be in the area. Now, whether the spirits move to the new bridge, stay in the area they're at, I don't know.
Do spirits tend to stay with a sort of landmark, you know, like a bridge, or is it more of a location that they tend to be at?
Spirits can do pretty much whatever they want to do.
Okay.
I don't know why there's so many of them out there. I think there's a portal where they can come in and out right there. One did die out there. Probably 2 of them was killed. One was shot to death. One fell off the bridge.
Okay.
And they're the most active by far. So they're staying there because there's a reason, and I ain't figured it out yet.
Now, I'm not going to go into the exact specifics of where I live, but let's just say that I can see the Bush Brewery from where I live.
Oh, okay.
Now, I did know this before you came in, that you do sort of, you've done events there before,
Yes.
around Halloween time. I know that's a big area for you. What's so special about the Bush Brewery?
Again, I can't tell you why. I guess it's just been there so long, but it's got to be the most haunted place in Franklin County by far.
Okay.
We
really?
have had so many experiences there. Other people have. There's been other ghost hunter groups in there. The ghosts are friendly. They're happy. If you ask them, I took a charity group there a few years ago, and they sold tickets for a charity for a ghost hunt. And I went in and I said, guys, these folks are coming in to see you. Let's have some fun. Well, that was the most active night we've ever had.
Really?
I think the spirits were just playing with the people.
What can you describe some of these experiences? What exactly happens?
Well, the first night, I had set up a PowerPoint, and I was showing them some of the evidence we'd gotten before. While I was doing that, these black spirits, they're like shadows, we call them shadow people, was darting back and forth down a hallway. And about 6 of the people were staring and watching as these black shadow people were running around and playing, trying to get their attention.
Really? So there was no skeptics in the room?
Not after that.
Not after that. Wow, okay.
We did have, and as a matter of fact, I have a video on it on YouTube. We have a young lady, and she came in and said, I am going to prove that there's no ghosts. I don't believe it. That's it. She got out the dowsing rods we use, and the next thing I know, she dropped them and ran out of the room.
Really?
And we interviewed her on camera and asked her what happened, and she described they started moving. She got scared. She dropped them. And her mom went back, said, we're going to try this one more time. Next thing I know, she's laid the rods down outside, and we didn't see her again for the night. She left.
She just couldn't handle it.
Right. The fastest way to get results from a ghost is to tell them you don't exist, because they will prove you wrong.
Do you think that's a goal of theirs? Is if you're looking for them that they will kind of seek you out? Or?
Not always, but
Not always? Okay.
I think the goal is to play and have fun. In fact, we had a psychic from a St. Louis group that come down with us once, and she come outside. Now, the main ghost that we deal with is called Fritz.
Okay.
And he was a caretaker who passed away back around 1913, somewhere in there. And he died there. Well, she comes out, she says to me, who's Fred? She'd been in the kitchen, which is where Fritz died. And I said, there is no Fred, you're talking to Fritz. And she said, no, I'm not. She goes, I am talking to Fred, he wears a suit, and he said, I'm waiting for the fun to begin. So I got hold of Mark Hausman, who's with the Washington Historical Museum. And the man knows everything about the area.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, who's Fred out here at the brewery? And he said, that's Fred Jersey. He owned it with Mr. Bush at the beginning, and he had a heart attack and died.
Really?
Shortly after they opened it. So there really was a Fred, and he was waiting for the fun to begin.
So how many total have contacted, made contact? 2?
Oh, no. We've got a lady there who we think is Mrs. Bush.
Okay.
We've got 2 soldiers. One is a Confederate. We ain't figured out what the other one is yet. We've got a child in there. Don't know why she's there, but she says she's 4 and rolls a ball around for us if we ask her to sometimes.
Wow, okay. So, now, you mentioned a dowsing rod before. What other equipment does a ghost hunter use?
Well, I started out with a K2 meter, which is basically an electromagnetic field detector. It's one of the better ones, though, because it's more sensitive, and ghosts can just get near it and it'll go off. And then we use a novelist. That is a device, if you ever see Ghost Adventurers, they use them on there. Okay. The ghost can actually make it speak for them.
Really?
And that's pretty cool. But the best tools I've found yet is dowsing rods. We was doing the charity ghost hunt, the first one. I've only got one K2 meter, and I had 6 teams of people who'd paid to be there. And I've never believed in dowsing rods. So went out and made some pairs of dowsing rods so the other people would have something to do. And it was crazy. Like I said, one quit and left because of the dowsing rods.
Oh. So can you describe exactly? I don't know what a dowsing rod is. What does it look like?
It's a L-shaped copper wire. It can also be made out of wood or any metal. But it's L-shaped. It's about 12 inches long with a 6-inch handle. And it's just a copper wire. You hold them out and talk to the ghost, and he will cross them for yes and separate them for no. Of course, you have to tell the ghost, I want you to cross it for yes. But they will make the rods move for you. And a lot of people complain that they feel the electricity. They get scared because they can feel power coming through those rods when they start moving.
And that's how you know that you're starting to make contact with that.
Oh, yeah. And there's nothing funnier than to watch the face of someone the first time they pick up the rods.
Really? Okay.
They'll grab the rods and just that stunned look on their face when the rods start moving.
They just know that there's something going on. Okay.
Yeah, and all of us who use them all the time laugh.
Now, let's say somebody doesn't have any equipment, and they don't really know how to go about it. But people that don't have equipment, they also see ghosts. Do people ever call you and ask you, hey, I think there's a ghost here. You want to come check it out?
Quite often, several times a year, people will ask us. The last one was really interesting. The man's son, who was about 14, moved out of the house because of the ghost in his room, and he was that scared. The family brought us in. We checked it all out, come down and said, your mother is in the bedroom upstairs. She'd passed away in the room, in that building. He refused, told me no. In fact, I thought he was going to throw me out. When people die, they go to heaven, that's it. We're done.
Okay.
Gave his wife the dowsing rod. She went up with 2 of my investigators. I stayed downstairs. She come back, handed him the rods and said, go talk to your mother.
Okay.
He went upstairs, determined to prove it wrong. He held the rod. I'm sorry, one of my people held the rods while he asked the questions because he refused to do it. Then he started thinking the questions and not asking them out loud. And after about 30 minutes of getting the right answers, he admitted it must be his mother up there.
Really, how do you convince a skeptic? It seems like you just let them figure it out themselves.
Sure.
Yeah.
I give him the device, let them figure it out for themselves, and he did. He was certain there was no way his mom was there until she was answering questions correctly that the person holding the rods didn't hear and couldn't know.
Now, walking into, let's say, a situation where you think there might be some sort of supernatural being going in that area, how does being a police officer help you walk into that situation?
The best thing it does for me, aside from the fact that I don't get afraid, is when I'm interviewing the people, and for instance, the guy I was just telling you about, when he called me and told me what was going on, I said, here's my plan. I'm going to come down there and talk to you, and we'll do a little brief one to see what's going on. But my main goal is to make sure you're not a nutcase. Mm-hmm. And he said, I understand that.
Right, okay.
And then if we find some reason, we'll come back for you if you'd like and run a full-scale investigation. So my ability to interview people and to watch their body language when they're talking, to know the keys for lying, that works out the best.
Okay.
I can pretty quickly tell if I'm dealing with someone who's lying or just not all there.
Okay. Well, what's the difference between walking into a crime scene and walking into, somewhere where a past crime may have been committed,
Well, it's a lot neater.
Okay, right. Yeah.
A lot less blood.
Right, okay.
But really, there's not much difference. I talk to the witnesses and then start the investigation.
Okay.
About the same.
Really? Okay, that's very, very interesting. Now, when... I assume that you get a lot of house calls, but you mentioned. Why don't you talk a little bit about other places that you visited around Franklin County and just around in general that you thought were especially special places to go visit?
Oh, there's so many places I've been to. There's a lot of homes. Of course, I won't mention the names, but one in Washington where the folks were having some troubles. We got there and definitely had some spirit activity there. A trailer out of Craco. Okay. That we went to, and we determined that was a family member also, and the family was relieved, and over time it stopped. They'd gotten a new baby. Okay. So family members were coming to see the baby, and it was startling them.
Okay.
There was one between New Haven and Berger in which it was a ghost of a child.
Okay.
And it was playing with the other children who were getting very scared.
I imagine. Right.
And then when they were trying to make it leave, it started throwing things.
Okay.
Having little temper tantrums.
Oh, all right, okay.
So we went there for that one and got it taken care of. Like I said, there's just so many I could describe.
Do ghosts act like people do when they were alive? Do you find that
absolutely.
And you mentioned before that some of them are friendly, some of them are not friendly. What have you run into more friendly ones or unfriendly ones?
I've run into more Caspers, more friendly ghosts than I have otherwise. But I have run into some very mean human spirits.
Okay.
And I think sometimes they try to pretend to be demons, but there's certain hallmarks you look for.
Okay.
And but the spirits I deal with are mostly friendly or just ambivalent. They're there, deal with it.
What do you think as far as the bad ones go, the meaner ones? Why? I mean, do you have any reason why that one would be upset about something?
The personality they had when they died is the same personality they have as ghosts.
Okay.
So if they were mean people in life, they're mean people in death. Now the question is, why didn't they cross over?
Okay.
I have a theory, and it's just this. When we were kids, well, not you so much. I got about 25 years on you. But when I was a kid, there was a lot of Baptist preachers and the hardcore preachers that was basically telling us we're all not worthy of heaven, how bad it is in the other place. And I think once these folks died, they were a little bit afraid to move on.
Okay.
Because they'd been told all their life they are going to burn, period. So why go?
All right, okay.
So they're hanging out in their old house. They see it the way it was, but they can't figure out why these other people were in there.
Do you believe the ghosts are the ones that make the choice to move on or not?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I really believe they make their own choice. I have said before, there's plenty of stuff in the Bible that says God gave us free will. Never found a place that said he took it away from us on death.
Okay.
So why do they have to move on?
Now, let's see. Now, you mentioned a couple different places, but we were talking a little bit earlier about where I lived in Ohio. You mentioned you went to a lighthouse that I knew very well,
yes.
and a state penitentiary. Our state penitentiaries See, I get this picture in my head that, you know, the worse of a place it is, the more ghosts are there, you know. So
probably right.
Penitentiaries tend to be
yes.
Okay.
The two I've investigated 2 penitentiaries.
Okay.
One in Ohio and one down here in Jefferson City.
Okay.
Both of them did not disappoint.
Okay.
Very haunted places.
There were places that people were put to death.
Yeah, I did do a ghost hunt in the gas chamber itself at the old Jefferson City prison.
Okay.
Got some contacts. In fact, we even figured out, we was talking to a guy who was the last one killed there.
Okay.
He was the only one killed by lethal injection.
Oh, all right.
And one investigator with the rods, and I've got that on video, was asking him, am I sitting in the chair that you died in?
Mm-hmm.
And he said no. And he says that was a trick question, wasn't it?
Oh,
because
okay.
the last one didn't die in a chair, he died in a gurney. So yeah, we got a lot of good results. Let me tell you this one. Got a result in the old penitentiary in Jeff City, and after a lot of time of talking with it, he was a prison guard. He was killed by a prisoner, and he waited there until that prisoner died. And then when that prisoner woke up on the other side, he took him back to his cell, and has been guarding him since 1906.
Really? So, I mean, obviously, not everyone who dies becomes a ghost.
No.
Okay.
No.
Do you think there's more old ghosts or more new ghosts?
I have no idea.
Okay.
We've dealt in some places where some very old spirits are. Spirits have been there for centuries. And, of course, England, Ireland, Scotland, with castles and all, they deal with centuries, if not 1,000-year-old ghosts.
Really? Wow.
But in this country, I deal more with ghosts since probably 1850, Civil War.
That's fascinating. And, again, I'm talking to Dan Terry, the Assistant Police Chief of the New Haven Police Department. Author of 6 books, and the new one, of course, we've got sitting in front of me right here, and he's the spook stalker, the self-proclaimed spook stalker. Is that correct?
That's it.
That's what you like to be called. So we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, you'll join us for a little bit longer?
Of course.
Okay, well, we'll take a quick break. You're listening to KLPW AM All Talk 1220. My name is Sean McConnell. I'm filling in for James Strong this afternoon. It's a beautiful Saturday outside. Anyone who is out there who is not outside, I definitely encourage you to listen to your radios. But, get outside. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of nice weekends like this left. So I do understand that it is deer season today. And, again, I'm being joined by New Haven police officer Dan Terry and notorious ghost hunter. Are you a deer hunter by any chance?
No, I stick with the invisible.
I see. Okay, you only like to hunt the ghosts.
That's it.
Now, again, deer hunting season began today, and again, I'm gonna pretty much wrap up the show with Dan Terry today. We're gonna just go right up to the limit. But if anyone out there, I am really interested to see how the deer hunters did today. So if anyone out there bagged a deer on their first day of deer season and is willing to share some information, mainly about size. I don't expect you're gonna give up your secret deer hunting location, but just so you'll tell me, how many points it is. Was it an antler deer, unantlered deer? Definitely interested in that information. So, all right, I have a question for Mr. Terry sitting across from me right now. How long have you been a New Haven police officer?
About 17 years.
Okay. And how long have you been ghost hunting?
Since the late 70s.
Oh, okay. So
now I started out then, joined the service, and back then in the service you don't talk about ghosts, or they put you out with a medical discharge. So I didn't do that then, and then I became a policeman, and up until Ghost Hunters came on television, you just didn't talk about that.
Right, okay.
So I stopped for a long time, but I actually started back in the 70s.
Now, has your methods changed at all over time?
Oh, yeah. Got much more scientific. In the old days, we went out with our flashlights and cameras and just see what happens. We didn't know about EVPs then. We didn't know about K2 meters. It's gotten a lot more complicated. But like I said earlier, even though it's gotten more complicated, I'm finding the simple dowsing rods is the best tool.
Okay.
So it's getting better, but I'm going more old-fashioned.
What do you mean by best tool?
They just seem to work better. The spirits seem more inclined to play with the dowsing rods than they do the K2s or that stuff. My very first investigation in New Haven, I set up candles. And it ended up the spirits were using the candles to communicate.
Okay.
But that was, again, before I had K2s and all that.
So, how does a candle work? I don't understand that you go for, there's a lot of different, a variety of things. What is it about an object that ghosts, you can use to hunt ghosts?
I suspect with the candle it was just simplicity.
Okay.
We were talking, and one of the people I was there, the owners of the restaurant, noticed that this one candle would flicker on certain questions. And they drew my attention to it, and they put another candle next to it, and I said, are you answering me through the candle? Well, one candle flickered, the other didn't. So it wasn't air or anything like that. So then we just started talking to the candle, which sounds weird, but it worked.
It does sound very weird, yeah.
But while I was talking to that, we asked it if it died by illness, and we got a no.
Okay.
No movement. We said, did you die in a car accident? And we got no movement. Then my wife says, did you die before cars? And that's when we got our first EVP. We got a hoarse voice said yes, very distinctly.
Are there questions that ghosts won't answer?
Oh, yeah. I can't tell you exactly what. It depends on the ghost.
Okay.
But there's sometimes we just don't get anything from them.
Okay.
And then we'll ask the right question, and they'll go off. Or we'll insult them.
Okay.
Or we'll yell at them or call them names. And that'll set some of them off.
Are most ghosts pretty easy to talk to?
Oh, yeah.
They respond pretty well. Do you think they enjoy having somebody to
most of the time. We went into a cell in Jefferson City, and the K2 was going off. Another guy come in with a K2 at the same time, and he didn't want to talk to us. That spirit wouldn't. I said, do you want me to leave your cell? Well, both of them went off. So we took the K2 meters and went down 3 cells. That one didn't want us to leave.
Okay.
And he just talked away, and he would have 2 K2 meters and rods all going off at the same time. He was that powerful.
He's lonely
Very
in prison.
much, yes.
All right, again, I'm talking to Dan Terry. If you want to join in on the conversation, the number is 636-584-8255 or toll free at 1-866-570-1220. Have you ever been in fear for your life hunting ghosts?
Hunting ghosts? No, never.
Okay, as a police officer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
As you saw in the book, guy I knew him well. I had arrested him once for DWI, but I'd also helped him in some cases. He was a good kid, but had a bad week and drank too much and decided to shoot at the police with his rifle. And he was tracking me. I didn't know it at the time. The chief was watching and said he was trying to hit you as you was running.
Okay.
I know when I got behind the car, he hit the car 3 or 4 times. That's when I was scared.
That was I didn't want to go into the specifics, but that was definitely my favorite story. It was very, not favorite that I liked, that it happened, but just favorite that it was just the way you write is very gripping. You can definitely tell that it is a firsthand experience of how you're basically looking down the site of this. So.
Oh yeah, that was rough. I did an interview with internet radio show here a while back. A couple of ghost hunters out in Kansas. And that's what they asked, have you ever been scared? And I told them that story. And I said, no, I don't get scared anymore from ghosts.
Right, okay. Now, has a ghost ever tried to harm you in any way or anybody that you've been with?
Harm? No, a couple of people kind of been pushed on a stairway, but nothing too major.
Okay.
Now, we was in one in Kansas here a while back, and they took me into a place where the last time they was there, a black figure dropped out of the ceiling and rushed them. Okay. And they all left. This was an old storage facility, had wood piled everywhere, just tons of lumber. We walked in, and it was like someone kicked a pile of lumber over. Just a big, loud explosion as this lumber fell. And they tried to run again. And we stopped them. No, we're not going to run. Well, as soon as I stopped them, we saw the black shadow figure leave quickly into another room. And that's that. They'll try to bully, they'll try to scare you, and when they find out they can't, then either they're going to talk to you or they're going to leave.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that you go with other people. Do you have a crew around you that you tend to like to hunt ghosts with?
I found out a long time ago teams don't work because pretty soon egos get in the way. Everyone gets different ideas. There's people that I could call and they will go with me.
Okay.
I've got a couple psychics who will go with me if I ask, but I don't have a team as such. And I advise people when they're getting into this, don't try to create a team. It causes troubles later. But I go out with other people. There's groups out of Kansas, Arkansas, Iowa that will call me, Missouri, and say, hey, Dan, we got this. Would you like to help? So, yeah, sure, I'll go.
Now, do you think anybody can be a ghost hunter?
Absolutely.
Really? Okay.
Absolutely. I am. A lot of ghost hunters claim to be psychic. I am not.
Okay.
Not in any way, shape, or form. And I do it my way, which is more of a police type of way. But it works for me, and I think anyone can do it.
What do you think the difference between a ghost hunter and a psychic is?
Well, the psychics just have one extra ability that we don't have. Good friend of mine lives over in Union. Tim Clifton is his name. He calls me up one night. I'm on a ghost hunt at a ambulance shed, actually.
Okay.
And we're just starting to figure out that one of the spirits there is attached to one guy in particular. And I said, all right, let's take a break, because we was getting tired, turned the lights on. Suddenly I get a phone call from my friend Tim. He says, Dan, what are you doing? I said, Tim, I'm on a ghost hunt. He said, yeah, I know. There's a woman ghost there. She wants to be acknowledged. She don't want a lot of credit, but she is a mother figure to someone in that room. She was in World War II. She was somehow attached to working for the war, plus volunteering for the war, like maybe draft board or something.
Mm-hmm.
And he did all that, didn't even know I was ghost hunting.
So he was just he doesn't have to be on the site. So
he didn't.
That's his psychic ability. You know?
Yeah, that's how good he was, or is. So I talked to the guy. It turns out the person we thought it was had worked at an airplane factory in St. Louis and sold war bonds.
Really? Okay.
So I mean, he was dead on that night.
Wow. Okay. Now, what's your favorite of all these ghost hunting? Who's your favorite ghost?
Oh gosh, I'd have to say Fritz.
Oh, really? Okay.
Fritz down at the brewery was the one we've had the most fun with. We had a ghost conference, first ghost conference in Franklin County back about 2009. There was an aluminum rod leaning up against the corner. Had been there all day, no big deal. Mark Hausman had come in to talk about the Busch Brewery for me. He was one of the first lecturer. And he got to talking about Fritz. Well, he said the word Fritz. And there were 65 people watch this. 65 people at this thing. This aluminum rod raised up about 6 inches and then come right down on his shoulder.
Really?
And he looked up and said, I guess Fritz knows I'm here, or something to that effect.
Wow, and all these people saw it.
Yes.
Everyone in the room was a witness.
Every one of them watched that rod come down, and several of them said they saw it raise up first.
Wow. So now Halloween season tends to be your busy time as far as doing events. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have a lot of fun around October.
So you have some you don't plan any between now and next.
There'll be some ghost hunts come up. There is a former mental asylum in Illinois that's allowing ghost hunters in.
Okay.
So I plan on getting there here pretty soon. There's I'd like to get back to Jefferson City, and there's a couple other prisons. Moundsville, West Virginia. There's one out in Yuma, Arizona. I'd like to get out and ghost hunt some more of those.
Do they contact you, or do you contact them?
Most of them I have to contact.
Okay.
But when it comes to people needing help, or other groups will call me, and Bobby Mackey's Country Western Bar, very well known for being haunted. It's up in Kentucky, Wilder, Kentucky. And a ghost hunting group out of Kentucky called me up. And we talked before at some of these conferences. And they said, hey, Dan, we're going here. You feel like coming up? I was, well, yeah, I'll go.
Right, okay.
There we found some gangsters. And
Really?
Oh, yeah. This group I was with, and I watched them, they set up a table, put out some poker cards to play poker, because they thought that would get the gangsters going. And one of them said, all right, ante up. And as soon as he said ante up, the change machine went off.
Oh, yeah.
They were ready.
They're making contact, really. Okay, so
they got the recorder going. They're playing. One of these guys says, I win. He had a 3 of a kind or something, and his EVP was a dark, gruff voice saying, mine.
Oh, really? Yeah. He's just looking over his shoulder, just waiting for that pot to get built up a little bit. Yeah, so.
You got it.
But that's amazing. Yeah. So is there different? So you mentioned there's different ways that they will, make that first initial contact. Is there a usual way that they'll make the first contact? Do they do it through the equipment, or do they do it through something like a change machine going off?
It depends on the spirit. Okay. It depends what kind of mood he's in. Usually it's the rods for me, because that's the first thing I'll pull out. Okay. Set out the equipment, then pull out the rods. But other times, some of them will try to scare me away, and then they'll appear as dark shadows running through the room or something, or knock something over. Tim and I went into a room of a trailer, same one I talked about earlier. Went into a bedroom to see if the ghost was in there, because that's where they said it was. And Tim said, is there anyone in here? And a picture frame sitting on a chest of drawers slid about 8 inches towards us.
Okay.
And that's how that one let us know it was there.
Now, a lot of these places, that you contact, are a lot of them a little hesitant about letting you in there, or do you think most people are pretty open to?
It's surprising. Most people are pretty open. There was a bed and breakfast out of Herman.
Okay.
And they called us there because of the ghost. But once we got there, they decided they really didn't want that hanging over them. They didn't want to talk about it anymore. So they very politely told us all we wanted to know, but then just asked us not to bring it out.
Or at least not write it in your book.
Exactly. Yeah.
They don't want the publicity. Yes.
Now, there's 2 other B&Bs there that do want to talk about their ghost. One of them, guy commented that he didn't believe in ghosts, and his car started going off. The light started flashing. It was locked. The radio turned on in his room a couple times. The ghost was determined to prove it was there.
So sometimes the ghosts are the ones that make up their mind about whether you're going to be there or not.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, go in and tell them you don't believe in them. That'll stir them up.
Okay, yeah, and then you can't come in, basically. Yeah, they don't like hearing that. So, now, this is not, again, like I mentioned a couple of times, this is your 6th book. Where's a good place to find a Dan Terry book?
Pratt's Pharmacy has them.
Okay.
The Book Depot in Washington carries them. I don't know if they've carried the new one yet, but they do have some of my older ones. And Barnes & Noble's carrying my 2 most recent ones.
Okay.
And this new one, Too Hungry to Die, probably would be there by now if it wasn't for the storms.
Really? Okay.
They haven't contacted me back yet, but they're usually
it's a slow
pretty
move,
quick.
right? Okay.
And also got that one on Kindle and Amazon. Going to be available in ebooks.
Really? Okay. Well, we have a caller, so why don't we go to him and see if they've got a question for Police Officer Dan Terry. Hello, you're on the air.
Yeah, we got that one book of his with the picture of the cover, the Enoch's Bridge on the cover of it. And I looked at that book before, and it says something like if you go down there and turn your car off and honk your horn 3 times or something, a dog would show up. I don't know what it was, but we did that before a couple of times, and nothing ever happened.
You know what he's talking about?
Sure. It's a local legend, and back then I didn't believe in them, and I even wrote it. That's what they say, but I don't believe that. But I was out there a couple of years ago, and a guy comes to me with his phone, says, can I show you something? Because he didn't want to talk, but he had to get it out. He had done that with a friend of his, and they were videoing the whole thing with their telephone, and something did appear when they turned their lights back on. Scared them both. All I could see was this red spinning thing in front of them, and then they dropped the phone.
To our caller, have you ever tried the honking 3 times thing?
Yeah, we did it with my daughter. She's 12, and she wanted to go down there and see if anything would happen. But we did it. We did it 2 different times, and I don't think nothing ever happened.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for the call, sir.
All right, thanks.
Give it a shot with going out there with a couple of copper wires, about 18 inches long, bend them at the 6-inch mark, and talk to the spirits. If you go to the west end of the bridge and ask for the spirit there, he's the most active.
Really? Okay. Did you find that for this example, this guy came and twice and it didn't happen? Do you think that is kind of hit or miss, or do you think that they're always there?
I think the spirit is always there.
Okay.
Sometimes you just don't feel like doing anything.
Naturally.
They, like I said, just like humans, they get into their moods.
Interesting. So again, a lot of people, I personally still like to have the actual book in my hands, to actually, read the print. But, ebooks are real big now. Is there any way you can get a Dan Terry book electronically?
There will be.
Okay.
In fact, this is the first one. Too Hungry to Die is the first one I've done that with. And again, I'm waiting for Barnes & Noble to approve it, and then it'll be available in ebook form from them. And I'm trying to figure out a way to sell it myself over my website.
Okay.
I just got to figure out a way to lock it.
Okay.
And I got some experts working on that.
Yeah, you got to work some sort of PayPal thing out.
Right.
Now, why don't you tell us a little bit about obviously Too Hungry to Die is now out. It's the most recent one came out. When did it come out?
October. End of October.
Okay. Well, why don't you talk a little bit about what the next book coming out is going to be?
Well, like I said, I think right now I'm kind of working title. It's called Revenge. But back in the Civil War, they captured a man named Major Wilson. Major Wilson and a guy named Tim Reeves. He was a colonel with the Confederate. His units fought a lot down South Missouri. And he was captured at the Battle of Pilot Knob. He marched out here to Union, where the General Price's people had their camp. And there was probably 50 or 60 prisoners. They came out, they paroled all the prisoners. It was common in the Civil War to come in and say, if you promise not to shoot at us, we'll let you go home.
Okay.
And they paroled all of them except the men from his unit, which was like 6 guys. And they marched them out in the woods, shot them, and left them lay, just out of pure hatred. And when they found the bodies about a month later, the Union forces, they pulled an equal number of prisoners out of the prisoner of war camp in Alton, Illinois. marched them over to St. Louis, crossed the bridge, and executed them. Just plain shot them down for nothing. They were totally innocent.
So they're angry ghosts, it's safe to say.
I've never found ghosts related to this. I actually discovered this when I was looking for ghosts. I've not found any. It's just as a soldier or a former military man, I was in the Coast Guard, it just bothers me that people treated American prisoners this way by other Americans.
Right, okay.
And that's why I think this book needs to be wrote.
Okay, gotcha.
Now, this will be a novel. It will be totally different from anything I've done.
Okay. Now it was about this. I mean, do you have to switch up writing styles? Do you feel like it's a little bit more of a challenge to write about, something like your police work or something? You say you've been ghost hunting since the 70s,
right.
So it's something that you know very well. So are you kind of trying to challenge yourself a little bit with this new book?
Can't say I'm not a little intimidated by trying to write a novel.
Okay.
No, I've never tried it before, but it's worth a shot because it's an important story.
Okay. Now, again, this new book is coming out. Do you have any plans for when it could be possibly coming out?
Honestly, no.
Yeah, you just take it a little bit of time. You're a busy guy.
Yes.
You're a police officer too, so you got the work to do.
And we do. And like I said, this is just very intimidating to write a novel. I've never even thought of it before. I've read a lot, but I've never tried to do it myself.
If you could ghost hunt one place, where's the mecca of ghost hunting? If you had one choice of a place to ghost hunt, where would you go?
Well, let's not say one place, except I would love to get to England,
okay,
and Scotland and Ireland and get into those old castles there.
Okay.
That is my goal someday, is to ghost hunt in an old castle.
What's the oldest ghost that you've personally run into?
We ran into some Civil War spirits here and there, different places I've been. There's one in Herman that I dealt with in an old, I think it was an Oddfellows. Used to be an Oddfellows building, and now it's a private residence. And that spirit was a lot of fun.
Really? Oh,
Yes.
Can you tell a little bit about it?
Well, we got a picture of what looks like him with a bandage on his head. From the eyebrow up, looks like a bandage.
Must not have worked very well.
I guess not. And he was probably injured when Price went through Herman, because they did have a little battle there before the people of Herman actually threw their weapons in the river and rode across the stream.
Okay.
But yeah, all I know about him is he was young and he likes to play.
Okay.
And we actually got video of an orb going in and out of the ceiling. We can see disappear, and then it reappears and keeps playing like that.
What's the most interesting piece of information you've ever gotten from a ghost?
Well, I was in this new book, as a matter of fact, it's about Bertha Gifford. I don't know if you're familiar with her. She was a female serial killer from right here in Franklin County.
Okay.
And I got a contradiction. I was ghost hunting the old courthouse there in Union and got hold of her, which is what I was looking for. And she said she killed her first husband, which we all suspect. Her first husband died of stomach ailments.
Okay.
And she was an arsenic user.
Mm-hmm.
And we got down to Morse Mill, where her and her first husband ran a hotel, and he keeps swearing she didn't kill him.
Okay.
And that's kind of interesting about that.
Do you think that he just doesn't know, or
I think he's trying to protect her.
Oh, okay.
He will tell us that she killed who she was accused of killing, which was 3. But most experts say 17 is a good number of people she killed. He will not admit that she killed any more than she was convicted of.
Have you ever had a ghost, confess to a crime?
Yeah, Bertha, there at the courthouse, confessed to almost everything.
Really? Okay.
Absolutely. We asked names and all that. And she gave it to us. We even, another guy there who was his first ghost hunt happened to know the name of the pharmacist that sold her the arsenic, and she admitted to the right name because he named off like 6 names, and
Really?
she said yes on the right one.
All right. Well, Dan, this was a very interesting interview. I wish it could go longer, but it's again, I'm talking to Dan Terry. His day job is the assistant police chief of the New Haven Police Force. He's the author of 6, going on 7 books now, and he's a ghost hunter. So, and it was definitely an interesting interview. I hope that all of our listeners out there enjoyed it, and I had a great time filling in for James Strong today. I couldn't have asked for any more. Again, thanks for all the people who tuned in today. You can listen to KLPW all week long. I'm on. I start at noon. I'm